G'day swingers and welcome to Maccas Old School episode 27. Today we're calling it The Cold Case. It's Friday 28th of July. Before I get started, I'd like to thank some of our sponsors, of course, Storm Video Studio and Maccas. Thank God for Maccas. We'd like to thank also, giving us a lot of support, is the Bite Cafe, Monash Road, Gladesville. Thank you very much. Another plug that they don't know about, but I'm doing it because they're fantastic swingers. Good sparkies, good plumbers. Rutley Services Australia. Excellent. They're excellent service. They clean up after themselves. I nearly fell off the chair. I couldn't believe it. Good prompt service. Nice guys. Friendly. They're based in Chatswood. That's Rutley. Give them a try, swingers. Give them a try. Bite Cafe and Storm Video Studio, Marcus. Okay, let's get down to it. As said, today is episode 27. We call it the cold case. It's very, very controversial, more so than Rogerson and Lanfranchi. And it's been something that's been going on since the 60s for many, many years. Ronaild Ryan, the last man hung in Australia on the 3rd of February 1967, about a month before I was born. That's what we're doing. We're doing that. He escaped from Pentridge Prison. They were on the run somewhere between 17 and 19 days, I believe, and they were apprehended where we are on location today. You can come through, mate, that's fine. We're on location. It's streetwise. A gentleman's walking past where we are outside Concord Hospital. I believe someone gave him up. We have a fantastic fella who's been on, I think, number 6 time today. You all know him, he's a regular, and we keep having him back because his wealth of knowledge. The other fact is, he actually had met this man, Ronaild Ryan. He knew him. Peter Walker was his accomplice. There's so much detail in it. And John's written about him as well, Mr. John Killick, of course, and he's written about him, and he's a wealth of information. John was in Pentridge Prison when this man was executed. So he was executed, last hanging in Australia, 3rd of February 1967. John was in prison in Pentridge at the time. He had seen the man, knew the man. I believe he was in the death cell, and he was at the prison when he was actually executed. So without further ado, I would like to introduce, for I think the 6th time now, Mr. John Killick. Good morning, sir. Come on down.
Good morning.
How are you, mate? Good to see you.
Good to be here, and I think this is a very important one.
John's in the theme today. It is a very important one, and we're calling it the cold case, swingers. The cold case.
Well, Ronald Ryan always even with
a similar hat. Yeah, it bloody suits you to a T.
Very similar to.
Yeah.
And, I think that just sort of a bit of respect, because I'm absolutely convinced that Ronald Ryan absolutely was an innocent man. When you say innocent, he wasn't guilty of the actual shooting of George Hodson. And I think that half of Australia would already agree with this. This case won't go away, and I think that we should stick with it and keep pushing it until I think there's an inquiry, and perhaps I think he should be exonerated.
There's so many questions, isn't there? And we're not here making excuses for him. He was a criminal. He was a petty thief. I believe they just did one bank.
Well, look,
but in this case, there's so many questions that need to be answered, and that's why we're doing it. We're calling it cold case. It's controversial, like Lanfranchi and Rogerson that we did.
Very, very controversial, and both sides won't give an inch. But I mean, his lawyer, one of the great QCs down there, QC, he went to his grave pleading that for the rest of us not to give up on this, to keep pushing this issue, because he had no doubts. He knew all the facts. Nobody knew the facts better than him. And he said, this man is innocent. And by innocent, he means, that he wasn't guilty of the actual shooting.
Here we are, John. So this was actually where the phone booth was. It's amazing it's still here. on.
Well, it was probably a red telephone box.
It would have been a red telephone box. So he made the call. He made the call, Swingers, from here, and then went over to here, which is a cafe now, straight across the street. It probably was like a general store, I suppose, back then, John.
Well, it was the 5th of January 1966.
Yep.
They'd escaped on the 19th of December.
So they're on the run for, 17 to 19 sort of days? On the run, 19 days,
Well,
somewhere around there?
Yeah, about that. And what happened, that they had a date with a nurse here at the Concord Repatriation Hospital, and they pulled up here to make the call to tell them that they were there.
Come down or whatever,
now,
yeah.
The police had already been tipped off.
Yeah.
So what they did...
You're right.
They dismantled...
You're right.
They dismantled the phone.
There we go. We're on location, folks. There's people around. That's fine. No worries.
They dismantled the phone, and so Ryan, who made the call, walked straight in the car.
Yep.
Ryan walked over there to the general store, which is still here today.
Yeah.
Over there, and they'd already warned the guy there, the shopkeeper, and he said his phone wasn't working either.
Yeah.
So Ryan turned around and walked back out, and that's...
Do you think he started to jerry at this stage? Something's going down? Or?
He may have, but it was too late because they had over 50 police around in the area.
Yeah.
And the guy who nailed him, because he's a publicity seeker and a pretty bad guy, was Detective Ray Kelly.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And Rogerson became a disciple of his. So he taught Rogerson the ropes. He was the main guy. He'd killed a few people himself.
I've heard of, he was quite a well-known cop, wasn't he?
Yeah, so he grabbed him with the other guys for the arrest. Another really bad guy, known at the time, Detective Craig.
Yep.
Very bad detective, corrupt as hell. Put a shotgun to Walker's head and said, "Move and you're dead."
Yep.
And I know Walker personally. I knew him, and
you knew him from in prison, didn't you?
Yeah, I was down in Hastings, spent 4 years with Walker, and he told me about him many times. He said he really thought his hand was actually shaking. Craig's hand was shaking.
He was ready to roll.
He was ready to roll and take his head off.
Yep. G'day, Swingers, I'm back again. Now, we've just changed our location. We wanted to show you where the phone box was. It's not a phone box anymore, but it's still in the same location. We wanted to show you the general store, which is a cafe now, and that's where it went down. I believe there was about 40 cops that pounced at that point on them. So we really started the show, we started at the end for these guys, because after that they were arrested and taken back to Victoria, Pentridge, and John's going to come on in a minute and explain the rest. We've moved further down because outside Concord Hospital, you can imagine, it's as noisy as fuck, it's busy, and that's fine. A bit of street noise is not bad, but that was getting ridiculous. So we've moved down from the location. The hospital's still there, and I'm going to call Mr. John Killick, who has the knowledge. Call him back on now. Come on, John. John's going to tell us about this, and the little fella's going to stand off camera a bit because John knows this. John met Walker. Ronald, you've seen these people. You were in prison when he was actually executed. So
that's okay. We have had a lot of interruptions, and we're actually on location, which makes it better, I think, because this is where it happened. It's hard to believe that we're talking about 1966 January, 5th of January, when they'd been out. They escaped on the 19th of December, 65 from Pentridge. And a prison officer was killed, and I'll go into that shortly, during the escape. And another man was killed just around about Christmas time by Walker, and I'll go into that. But they were very, very hot by the time they got here in the 5th of January.
Yeah.
Now, they'd made a date with a nurse over here at the Concord Repatriation Hospital. Walker apparently knew the lady at some stage prior to that.
She's giving him up.
She's giving him up. The police were ready. Detective Sergeant Kelly was in charge of him. He was a really heavy, dangerous, bad cop. There's no doubt about it, and responsible for the deaths of. He killed quite a few people.
There was that many bad cops at the time, mate.
Well, there were. They ran the city just about, and he had. Rogerson was a disciple of his, and he, when Ryan got out of the car, Walker stayed in the car.
Yep.
Ryan walked over to where we saw the phone box, which would have been a red one at the time, red box. Tried to make a call. The police had disconnected it. He then went over to the shop that we've seen, which is over there.
Yep.
That guy was in on it. Said, "Look, our phone isn't working." Ryan went out. By then, he may have been suspicious. It was too late because what had happened. Kelly ran over, grabbed him.
There was a bunch of jacks just.
There were 50 police there. They were ready to shoot on the spot.
Yeah.
And that was the end of it. And a guy called Cray, who was a really bad cop too, put a shotgun at the window to Walker and
was in with like an inch blowing his head off.
And Walker often described it to me. He said he really thought he was gone at that stage.
Yeah.
So they then took him. They actually took him back to a military base. That's how the high security there was. They took him back to a military base in Melbourne and took them to Pentridge.
Yeah.
Where they went straight to H Division. Now, what I'm doing and what you're doing, and what a lot of people would agree, we're calling this a cold case.
A cold case.
A man has been executed.
Yeah.
It's, in our opinion, the wrong man. There are a lot of people that agree with us, and we're going to go through it and point out why we believe it should be a cold case. There should be an investigation into this, and there should be an overturning and a quashing of the conviction. Now, there have been examples where this has happened in the past. I go back to I think it was 51, 52. There was a serial killer, really, a guy called Reginald John Christie, who murdered a lady who was staying there with her husband. He was mentally retarded. They had a baby. He raped, murdered the girl, killed the baby, and then when Evans came back from work, found them, was hysterical. Christie convinced him to run for it because the police would get him, and he ran, and Christie said that he confessed to him, etc. They took that poor young man, they dragged him to the gallows screaming, crying, his wife's dead, his baby's dead, he's been blamed for it, he was retarded, and they hanged him. Now later on, they found a lot of bodies in Christie's, where Christie lived in Remington Place.
Yep.
They found bodies there and realised that he was a murderer. And what they did, they give a posthumous pardon to Evans, which wasn't much use to him, but he got it. We're asking for the same here. That I think the investigation, we've got a huge support here. There's so many people have written. There's been books written about it. The QC Opus, who died saying that, and represented Ron, died saying, look, this man is innocent. Certainly not guilty of the shooting of George Hodson in the water.
Yeah.
So
he was no angel. He was no angel,
and we'll go into that. But that's what we're doing here. We're calling this a cold case because I think we're going to put a case forward and point out the facts and show that, in our opinion, this conviction should be overturned. A man has been executed. I believe wrongly executed. A lot of people believe wrongly executed. I should point out too that a lady called Atlanti Diosonis down in Melbourne did a virtual reality show and won documentary, and actually won a prize for it, and she's going to distribute that shortly, and it's something to keep in mind because it actually puts you in the shoes of a condemned person, puts you in the shoes of Ronald Ryan.
Oh, right,
and also Jean Lee, the last woman hanged in Australia.
Yeah, right.
And does those two cases, and it's really eerie to be there and take a walk in the shoes of somebody who's actually about to be executed, and in our opinion for a crime that he didn't do, and you can imagine with Evans what he went through. So I think that show is one that you should check out too when it's available.
Yeah, for sure, mate.
And they are absolutely certain too. They put the case forward that he was an innocent man.
Yeah.
Now, when I say innocent, as you said, he's certainly was a criminal, but certainly not guilty in our opinion of the shooting
of this,
killing of George Hodson.
And so we'll go back to the start. It was Christmas, the Christmas party on the escape at Pentridge. The guards were a bit lax.
No, it's the 19th of December.
Yep. But they were having a little Christmas. Apparently the guards were laxed and they were doing something.
Well, there were a lot of them missing. Missing because what had happened, they were having a little Christmas party, as you do. You know, you got a maximum security prison there, but you want to have a little party. Yeah. So it was very lightly manned. Now, the prison officer on the tower, his name was Holbert Lang.
Right.
Now, they managed to get up on the tower, grab him. Ryan took his rifle.
Yep.
Now, what they had the carbines, 303, I think they were.
I'd say they would be, the old 303s. They were a powerful weapon, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it was they had 8 shots, 8 live rounds in them, and each one that was issued with one of these, they had 8 live rounds. Now, Ryan took it off him and forced him to press the lever when they go down into the bottom of the tower and lose outside.
Right,
But what he did, he pressed the wrong lever. So when they went down, the door wouldn't open.
Yeah, right.
So that cost them 30 seconds.
Yep.
Now what happened? They had to come back up, get him to do it, quite angrily, get him to do it, and he did that, and then they got out. But that 30 seconds probably cost the Hodson his life, because what happened, it gave time. Hodson ran out, sang after the tower that what had happened. The Salvation Army guy came. Ryan grabbed him, said, "Give me the keys," because in the car park, "Give me the keys to your car."
Right.
He said, "I haven't got a car. I didn't bring it." And Ryan knocked him to the ground. Salvation, in anger, knocked him to the ground, and then ran off towards the top of the highway. In the meantime, Hobson had been warned. Had come out and cornered Walker, and what had happened, Ryan had got to the top, tried to commandeer a car, he took off. He managed to commandeer another car, but at the time we looked around, he saw that Walker was cornered by Hodson, who was holding some object to hit him with. Ryan took aim at the Hobson. At the same time, there was another guy, his name was Patterson, another prison officer, who run out and had Walker in his sights, and he said, put pressure on the trigger and said he pulled it because a woman walked across in front.
Yeah, right.
So he said, that's the evidence he gave.
Yeah.
But, so there was just one shot rang out.
Yep.
One shot rang out, and they're saying that it was Ryan's shot. But the bullet was never found for some reason.
How many guards, John, was shooting at the time? How many of the prison guards were actually shooting?
There was only
two of them?
There was only 1 or 2 shots fired.
From the prison guards, yeah.
No, none of the others fired. That's because all the rifles were checked.
Yeah.
So but this one here, at the trial, all that happened. And Ryan said he brought the gun back and he never fired the shot.
Yep.
Now, the bullet was never found.
Yep.
You got to wonder why. There were no fingerprints. So you have to ask, why these things weren't done in a trial where a man's life is. So it's what's wrong for me. There was forensic experts got up who said that Ryan was on a flat surface and the bullet hit the officer at a downward angle. He would have had to be 9 foot tall. Now Patterson was up on an area where there was a little garden. Yeah. And he was looking down.
Yeah.
So
the trajectory and the angles, it doesn't add up. Just that alone.
The trajectory pointed towards him.
Yep.
And another thing that should be pointed out too is that the prison officer who cost that extra 30 seconds on the tower, who lost the rifle and blamed himself, later killed himself.
He suicided. What was it, a couple of years after all this?
Yeah, 2 years later, suicide.
See, that alone, there's a massive suspicion cast there. I mean,
look, you can't convict a man on the evidence that was available at the time because. But let's go into the whole story and see why there was so much publicity about it. Because what happened? They went to a party.
Sorry, swingers, we've got a lot of street noise, so we'll just.
Okay, now what are you going to do when you've escaped?
Yep.
You're all over the news, you've got no money, you rob a bank, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So they robbed the bank.
Yep.
Okay. They could have run in with a banana and said, that's Ronald Ryan, they would have given the money because that everyone was terrified that stage of prison officers being killed. Yeah. So they didn't need a gun, but they had the gun.
I think they got $4.5 grand, did they?
I'm not sure what they got.
Somewhere around there.
But, that would have been a fair bit of money in those days, So they went to a place where they were getting holed up. They had a party.
Yep.
Around about Christmas Day, Boxing Day.
Yep.
And what happened down in Melbourne in those days, as right around Australia, all the pubs were closed on Christmas
6
Day.
o'clock swell sort of thing, yeah.
Well, no, they weren't even open.
Weren't
even
period,
open. No.
yeah.
So you had to go to the black market. So they'd run out of beer, and Walker said, I'll go down and buy some beer down the black market down in South Melbourne. And this guy come out of him, his name was Henderson, he's a tow truck driver, and he said, I'll come with you. So they got in, and when they got in the car, Henderson made a fatal mistake. He said to Walker, that guy's Ronald Ryan. He said, there's a reward on him. He said, let's go to the police. And Walker said, yeah, great, okay, let's do that. So they drove along the Esplanade, along the beach, going down towards South Melbourne. Walker stopped. Now, Walker told me this. I spent 4 years with him in Hastings.
You knew him well.
I knew him really well. We spoke every day, and I knew him pretty well. And he was pretty. I actually liked Walker, but he certainly had
a temper.
He had a dark side. I mean,
yeah, he'd have to.
But the thing is that a lot of people look at Ryan as. I think out of the two of them, I think I've always said, and I said it to Pete, I think you're more dangerous than what Ryan ever was. So, but Pete was in for bank robbery to start with. You know, he robbed banks about the same time I did, and in the mid '60s. Anyway, what happened? They got out. Walker said, "I've got to go down and have a leak." There was a toilet down on the beach, and the guy got out, made a fatal mistake, said, "I'll come with you." They went down. As soon as they got in there. I'm giving you the version that come out in court.
Right.
Walker said the guy grabbed him, tried to arrest him. He had a gun. Walker had a gun. There was a struggle. The gun went off. The guy finished up dead. Now, so Walker later got 12 years for that. He had 12 years for the bank robbery. That's 24, and then they gave him another 24 years for Hodson manslaughter. So he got 36
unbeknown
years.
to the towie, mate, that, like you said a minute ago, that was a fucking huge mistake. Saying, this is Ryan to Walker.
Yeah.
He didn't have a clue.
You'd think that he would have known it both of them anyway.
And he'd zip it and
zip
move
it.
on,
Yeah.
and
No,
that's cost him his life.
He wanted the rewards, you see.
This
is the thing. You're dealing with guys like that are desperate.
That's right.
But you got to remember that guy was straight. He wasn't a crim. He didn't know these things. He didn't know the criminal code and stuff like that.
Yep.
But as you said, it cost him his life.
Cost him his life, mate.
Anyway, Walker finished with 36 years and did 19. Later got out and got married, had kids, did the right thing for many years, but got arrested maybe 6-7 years ago.
Jesus, what an idiot.
He had some drugs and weapons, and
right.
he went in and they gave him, judge said he'd been living a pretty good life, gave him about 7 years, but about 4 on the bottom. So when he did the 4, gave him a bit of a break, he said, because he'd done so well. And when he'd done that 4 years, they let him out, but they grabbed Walker. I want to get this point across.
Please,
they grabbed
mate,
Walker, and they put him in a detention centre down in Melbourne.
Right.
Now, at the time he was crook, he had emphysema, and I used to talk to him on the phone. He was really crook. He was really crook.
And he would have been what?
Yeah.
In his.
He was about 80. About 80 years old. Now, they wouldn't let him go. They said he's staying there, and we're sending him back to England. It turned out he was a pom. Now this is the killer. They brought him over here in the late 40s.
Yep.
His mother committed suicide.
Oh, shit.
Can you believe it? His mother committed suicide. Brought him over here, made him a ward of the state. The government were in charge of him. He got abused, bashed, all the things that happen to kids.
Raped, bashed, everything else. Yeah.
All the things. So he went through that. So surprise, he became a criminal when he got out. Okay. Now,
but it's got to mess with your mental status.
Well, not just that. How can they say, look, we'll send you back to England? He didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
Been there. He'd been there, look, 50, 70-something years. He'd been in Australia.
Yeah.
He had a wife, kids, and they're sending him back, right? Yeah. He's sick, and the doctors said he's too sick to go back. Now, in my opinion, the government was responsible for him. He was a ward of the state. He was the government's child.
Yeah, that's right.
How can you send him back to England? He's your child.
Yeah.
You've had him for 70 years.
That's right. The government's track record's fucking atrocious on this stuff.
They got no heart at all.
Yep.
And Dutton was the guy who made the decision at that time.
Right.
Anyway, what happened, he stayed there, and the doctor said he's too crook to go over. They wouldn't let him go over.
Oh, even on the plane, yeah. If you're too crook,
he was in no man's land.
Yeah, right.
And he died. Now, I believe to this day that that's the punishment. That was the payback that the government never forgets. They said, we got Ryan, now we got you. And I really believe that's the way it works. And that's why I think at this stage we've got to look at it that if there's a lot of doubt about Ryan,
yep,
then I think it's time that they did look into it and have a proper investigation about the execution.
Into it, yeah.
Because it's well known what happened. It was so well known that was the last execution in Australia.
Yes, yeah.
Now, they hadn't.
And there was huge protests too, wasn't there, John, in Melbourne?
Huge protests. I got a letter from my father. There was a guy called Keith Ryrie.
Yep.
And I got handcuffed to him down there when I got caught for the bank robberies, and I didn't know who he was. When we got off the van, they handcuffed us. He was a red-headed guy. I didn't know who he was.
Shit. Yeah.
And they said, "Who's Ryrie?" And I said, "I'm Killick." They said, "You come with us, Killick." Took me away.
This Ryrie,
next thing I heard, Ryrie getting,
bastard.
they were bashing him, criminals were bashing him, and the screws just turned him on. And I said,
tell the swingers what happened there, John.
He raped and murdered two little girls. One was 6, another one was 16. Now, he raped and murdered. He admitted he did it, wrote statements. He got sentenced to death. And this is what the big stink was about. He got sentenced to death.
Yep.
Ryan got sentenced to death, right? What they did, Ryan, Boldy was on a law and order platform.
Yep.
He wanted Ryan dead.
Yep.
He hated bank robbers, armed robbers, people who killed kids. My father wrote me a letter, said, you can rape and murder little girls and not get executed, but if you rob a bank and escape...
Yeah, there's a massive hypocrisy there, isn't there?
There is.
Contradiction and hypocrisy, but yeah.
So what they did, they commuted the sentence on Ryrie, who finished up doing 27 years and getting out. Of course, Ryan, they went ahead and... What was the story
on that bastard? Do you know what happened to that Ryrie? Or he
got out. He got out. I heard he went to France. I don't know if it's true or not. He was a very good artist, brilliant artist, and a lot of guys used to pay him to do portraits and stuff like that in jail.
And he's lucky he got away with his life.
Well,
honestly,
he is.
Mate, you raped and murdered 2 kids.
If he's in New South Wales jails, that'd have killed him for sure.
It'd be over. Yeah.
Anyway,
Jesus.
I think Melbourne jails too. They put him in.
Segregation.
H for a while, where he got flogged down there by the screws, and then he went to A, where that was sort of a jail for first timers and
predators.
Different sort. But there were some good crims down A too. Like Ray Mooney did his time there and ran plays and done.
Yep.
Got things going, sports programs going. But you also had a lot of guys that virtually, to me, were on protection as well. Anyway, he got through it, and poor old Ryan, as we said, he got executed. Now, the thing is, what happened, it went right around the world.
Yep.
And they had a petition. There was hundreds of thousands of signatures. And they went up to the steps of Parliament and handed it to Boldy. And this is pretty famous. And the media were everywhere. This just before the execution. He got up and he ripped it all to shreds.
Oh, with the media there, did the whole stunt. Yeah,
and he's a little guy, very little ugly gnome-like guy.
Yep.
And he said, any man, he didn't say what, he said, any man who kills one of my officers, be he a prison officer or a policeman, he will hang. Yeah. And he turned around with a smirk and walked inside. Now, it was a one-man band. He had so much power and pull that he swayed them. Now, the media was against him. The media wanted Ryan saved. It's very rare that happens. The media actually were sort of on the side of Ryan. They didn't want that, but particularly when you got Ryrie, who's getting off.
Yeah.
And you've got to look at it this way too. The last person executed in Australia was Jean Lee, was a woman, and two of her accomplices. And that was 1951. Now, since then there'd been maybe, 12, maybe more.
Yeah, I think you're right. I've done a bit of research on that, and they did execute women in Australia.
Yeah, she was the last one. She was the last one. Now that's in that documentary I just mentioned that Atlantic did.
Right.
And she put you in her shoes, and they put the hood over, and you're actually there, and they pull the trap, and you're there, and it's scary. It's scary.
Oh, it'd be terrifying.
Yeah, but when you're on that virtual reality, you think it's you.
Yeah, right.
And your heart's going like some people can't do it.
This is it.
Yeah,
this is it. It's over.
You get a chance to watch it. But they had about 12, 14 people have their death sentence commuted up until Ryan. Now, there was one there, I remember his name was Tate. Now, he was a bad bastard. He raped and murdered an old lady.
Oh, fucking.
And it was a priest's mother.
Oh,
and the priest got up and went to bat to save him.
Yeah.
And saved him. He got within 9 hours.
Went to bat to save him, the priest.
Yeah,
right.
And it went to
9 answer for themselves, but anyway.
Well, within 9 hours, within his execution, he got a reprieve. By then, he was a snivelling regular man. He was doped up on pills and all that. And, and they come in 9 hours ago and said, "You've had your sentence commuted." And he's he's nervous. And I met the guy later. He's in Bui, running around. And it wouldn't have happened in New South Wales, but those days were different. I think we're a different breed of criminal these days. Old school tended to mind their own business more.
Yep.
These days, you'd probably have 8 guys run in and just stab him to death or something.
Well, shank. The shank there, and
it's a different thing.
Take care of him. Yeah.
But
I heard Ryan handled the actual execution. He was very calm. Is that
Ryan was pretty good because I was there, and like you could have. But some guy got up and said that he'd overheard a conversation that this person confessed to doing the shooting. Screw.
Yeah.
He got him a 48-hour reprieve. Justice Stark gave a reprieve to check it out. It didn't come to me, but Ryan was within about 8 hours of being hanged. About 9. It came through about 11 o'clock at night, and I heard all the banging on the walls and guys saying, "Ronnie's got a reprieve." People outside, all the protesters, you could hear it. So he had this huge amount of support. So I tuned into the radio and they said, "Yeah, he's been reprieved." And I sat down and I thought about it. I said, "Wait a minute, this is not going to work." You know, it was ex-crim, he's trying to save him. He's going to get 48 hours. Ryan would have prepared himself at that stage, I think, for the gallows. He'd have been half dead. He was ready. He was ready. Now they've given him hope again. He's got to go through all that again. And of course, 48 hours later, they've hanged him.
Yeah.
So they put a petition into the Queen. Didn't do any good. They went to the Privy Council. In those days, you could go to the Privy Council. You could go to the High Court and the Privy Council.
Yep.
But you had your choice. Privy Council was in England, so had more pull. But that failed. They've taken that right away. I think. I'm not sure who done it. Anyway, that was taken away.
So they've come this far with it too. They're not going to go back. They've made their decision whether you're innocent or not. You're going to hang.
And what happened? It's pretty. You've got to look in those days. A jury. It had to be unanimous. These days, I'm not sure on murder. Most trials now you're going to have 10 and 11 jurors. Jurors. You can have one out and still get a guilty plea.
Yep.
But there were 12 guys. You didn't have women on juries those days. They were never really questioned about bias. You know how you see in America all those shows, they question them for days sometimes to find out if people bias. They all would have heard everything. They'd know the Premier was against that wanted him dead. And they've gone against, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many people that have gone in and studied this, they've gone against the overwhelming evidence which said there's definitely, if not showing that he's innocent, there's thrown a doubt. And that the law really is about if there's a doubt, you can't convict.
That's right,
And we've seen so many people, in America we've seen it over there, DNA has proven it, over 200 people on death row were innocent, mainly blacks. But
and you can sit on that death row for fucking years, can't you? Like some of them have been on death row for 2, 3, 5 years.
10
like
10 or more, yeah. But look, when I was there, I'll never forget it. I was in Bui. You could have cut the air with a knife. The screws usually walked around on one. They were walking around in threes.
Yep.
The governor came the night before, and he said his name was Grenley. He said, "Look, they were rioting going on. They were outside. There were protests." He had tears in his eyes. He said, "I've just been to see Ronnie." He said he's asked me to ask you guys as a favour to him, don't play up. He's accepted what's happened. He's accepted his fate. He's ready.
Yep.
He's ready to meet his Macca, and you can only make it worse on everybody, including yourselves, by playing up. And they did. They accepted it.
It's a pretty good attitude.
And he said, "I'm going to let you out tomorrow," because we all thought we'd be locked down. Yeah. So I'm going to let you out tomorrow. Do me a favour, he said. It could cost me a job. Don't play up. Cool. So they come out. You can see the guys. We all come out for breakfast at 7. The execution was 8. We've come out. And we knew he had an hour to live.
You could hear a pin drop, John?
Yeah. And we looked at the screws, and they were walking around in screws, and they usually walk on one. And look, yeah, honestly, I've never been in that atmosphere ever since or before. That was ready to explode. Just the smallest incident would have set that place off, and I reckon they would have raised bloody Pentridge. It would have gone. It would have gone. I really do. I've been there in riots, and this one really would have been a hell of a one. It would have gone.
I mean, just what you said there is Australian criminal history, mate. And you were there.
It is. I was there. Well, I spoke to Walker a lot and got a lot of inside information from him, and he was adamant to me. He said, "Ronnie's pretty. He didn't kill that screw." He said that.
Yeah,
He said he didn't kill the screw. Now, look, when you're looking at forensic evidence, how do you get around the fact that a forensic guy, he's not just. They pulled a guy who studies these things.
Yeah.
How do you get around that? He said he would have to be 9 foot tall. The bullet travelled at a downward angle.
Yeah,
Ryan
that's right,
stand on a flat surface.
Yeah.
Ryan standing on a flat surface. Now, when you look at it, the convictions that have been overturned in the past, and the ones that were commuted, some of the horrific crimes that were commuted, you have to say, including Ryrie, Tate, these two in a row there, and. You've got to say to yourself, look, this was a political execution.
Yeah.
There's no doubt it's a political execution. And I think it's time. There have been books written about this. There have been documentaries about it. As I said, this latest documentary by Manny Diasonis, Virtual Reality, puts you right there in his shoes. And I think that it needs to be looked at, a proper inquiry.
Yeah.
The appeals court.
I think it's
didn't
long
do it
overdue,
properly.
isn't it? I mean, honestly.
It's not too late. It's not too late because it's still up there. And you've got to remember this, that was the last execution in Australia. Why was it the last execution? Because there's so much doubt about it.
So much doubt and outcry from the community as well.
And they're not going to go through that again.
Yeah.
They're not going to go through that again. And when you look at it, 67, what are we talking about? 57 years ago.
56, 57 years ago,
So there's been no excuse. There will never be another excuse in Australia, in my opinion. It won't get through because of this case. And I think, look, it's why don't they have a Royal Commission into it or an inquiry, a proper inquiry into it, and go examine the facts.
Into something half this sort of thing. But
and I just think that people like us should push. We've got the opportunity to push for this, and in honouring what that great QC said, who represented him.
He's carried guilt up to his death.
He's dying and he couldn't get him off. On his deathbed, he said, I want you to keep this going. He said he's innocent. He didn't kill him. So we're doing that, and there's other people doing it too. And I think it's not going to go away. So I think the authorities really should take a look at this. This is a cold case. It's not a concluded case. You've executed a guy, but it's still a cold case in our eyes. And I think that you really do need to get up, take a look at it, spend a bit of money, and have an investigation. It's not too late because the facts are there, all the paperwork's there, there's still people alive.
Yeah, it's highly controversial, isn't it, mate? You know, I mean, people to this day are still talking about it and still, and what we said earlier, we're not making excuses for Ronald Ryan. He wasn't perfect.
Look, Ronald Ryan was a crook. He was a crook. He was a crook.
In this case, we're just trying to bring up. And also condolences to the guard that was killed, to their family.
Absolutely,
well. It must have been fucking
absolutely, it's horrific for that family, and even the guy who killed himself, the prison officer who killed himself.
That alone, as tragic as it is, that alone speaks volumes. Doesn't it?
It does. It does. And look, I would say that the first thing I would say, if I was representing opposition, I know how they look at it. They look at it. And it was said that if Ryan hadn't escaped, the officer would have been killed. So that's the justification, you see.
Yeah.
That's the justification. But the fact is, that may be so. But he didn't pull the trigger. He's been convicted of pulling the trigger. And we've got to get that right. Whether or not you want to morally blame him for what happened, then, okay, you can morally blame him. But you don't hang people for that moral blame.
Unless you're 100+%.
Yeah, that's right.
And that normally requires DNA and what have you. But the whole hanging thing, just personal opinion, is barbaric. That's my opinion to hang someone. But it's been a punishment over the years, mate, in many countries, and they still have capital punishment in the States. You know, like we said, you can sit on death row for 10 plus years, but you've got to be absolutely certain.
Well, I said something there before about there were no fingerprints taken off the bullet, but that's because they didn't find the bullet.
Yeah.
You got to ask, where was the casing?
Yep.
If he fired that shot.
Yeah.
There were witnesses who said that they saw smoke, but there were 11 witnesses. Some of them said they saw smoke from Ryan's rifle, but you've got it. The other guy
took that rifle with them, didn't they?
Yeah.
They held the bank.
Yeah.
With that rifle.
Yeah. Now you got to look at the prison officer, Patterson, who was up on a higher level.
Yep.
Everybody saw him aim the rifle. Now he said that he saw a woman run across. Now nobody else saw this woman. Yeah, this is a mythical woman that ran across.
No one else. Yeah.
No one else saw her. Now, and he contradicted himself quite often in statements. He made a lot of contradictory statements. And Patterson, Ryan stuck to what he said. And I've got to point out now that one of the things that sent Ryan down was a record of interview. And in those days, what the police used to do, and it was famous for it, everybody knew it because they stopped it, they would get you, they would sit down, type up a statement that was made up by them. If you said, I've got nothing to say, and Ryan signed a bit of paper saying, I will not talk to police or make any statements until my solicitor is present. I've said it,
which
many
is
have
fair
said
enough.
Yeah, but they ignore it. They just verbally anyway in those days.
Yeah.
And so what they did, they said he made a confession on the plane.
Yeah.
Now, he's just signed this thing saying he wouldn't say anything. Now, suddenly he gets on the plane.
And that was a TAA, Fokker Friendship special flight they arranged.
Special flight, going, he knows where it's going. It's going to the naval base where they're going to grab him and take him to Hastefish, and then who knows what they're going to do to him there.
I was going to say, he must have got a flogging.
Yeah.
He must, maybe not in the face, but yeah.
Well, I can't verify that, but I was down at Hastefish when he was there, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. But what happened is that they've said he made this confession. Now, I've been verbal quite a few times, and I had Justice Mitchell throw out the verbal. Rodison verbal me. I've had it thrown out. Judges knew that it was made up because and for Ryan to sit there, a criminal who knew the ropes, to virtually put himself in the gallows by saying, I shot him, and there was no other witnesses except the cops saying he did it on the plane. Now, it doesn't. Why do you think they got rid of all these? You don't have a record of interview now. If they grab you, they have to do it electronically, the confession.
Yeah.
And that stops all that. That stops that. So that was another thing. You look at the jurors, they're not experienced in the ways that the police were. In those days particularly, what the police said, the police, people believed it. If the police said, look, he did it, they believe it.
Yep.
Now, these days, they're more sceptical.
Yeah,
they've seen all these true crime shows, they've seen a lot of, and they know...
technology, John, the coppers have got body cams themselves, and they can't get away with...
They've come undone a lot.
Yeah.
I reckon the cops today, are a lot cleaner than what they were in the old days. I think they are. I think they've got a lot more technology. I think they play it a bit fairer.
Yep.
But it doesn't change the fact that they're not allowed to verbal you.
Yeah.
They have to get the evidence, and they've got a lot going. They've got CCTV, they've got DNA, they've got all that stuff that wasn't available in those days. But
it was right. Graham Henry said that the times I talked to him, he said the times he was verbal that many fucking times from the coppers.
So was I.
Yeah.
So was I.
Yeah.
And so was Ross. You name it. So was Ronnie. Ronnie Isherwood. We all were. We all went through it.
Yeah.
Now, it was a game they played. It was cops and robbers games. We catch you. We're going to verbal you.
Yeah.
It was known. Chris Murphy, the famous lawyer, had verbal on the back of his number plate.
Yeah.
He used to fight the verbal, and he had verbal on the back of it because... And
I remember Murphy.
Why do you think they brought it in? Why do you...
Past him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so... look,
I believe. I'm not saying anything, I believe.
Well, I just think that you couldn't convict a guy on unsigned record of interview, but that helped. That helped. When they summed up, we got a confession from Ryan saying he did it.
Yep.
And he's always said he didn't. He said he did it. He got out. He pointed the gun in the direction of the prison officer. Another guy finished up dead.
Yeah.
This is huge. blah blah blah, and it just the jury sit there and they're not going to go against the weight, the sway of public opinion.
The coppers are saying this.
Yeah,
they're saying that all these
the judge,
all these people.
That's stark.
Yeah.
I saw an interview with him before he died. He said, I had no option. I didn't want to sentence him to death. I had no option. I don't think he deserved to die.
Yeah.
But Stark believed he was guilty, so he summed up that way. He believed he was guilty.
And the politician as well, making a statement as whatever, he's come this far. To pull back now, it's going to make a lot of these people look like total clowns.
Look, Boldy had a lot of pull. He used to win elections easy.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of pull because he had that law and order platform, and it was pretty powerful in those days.
But after he done the tear up and that, he did his little performance.
A lot of people hated him after that.
Yeah.
And he's not held in high regard now.
Yeah.
So I think that's poetic justice. A bit of karma's caught up to him there.
Yeah.
But all I can say too is that when I was down in Hacefish and had many talks with Walker, but when I first went there in '66, they'd arrested them on, as I said, the 5th of January. Now, I was on the run for bank robbery at the time.
Yep.
And I was arrested about 4 months later.
Yep.
And I tried to escape from Hawthorne Court. They threw me down Hacefish. Well, I got really badly flogged and bashed down there.
Yeah.
And
floggings were right.
Oh, yeah. The cell I was in, I could look across through this thing, people, that they weren't great, but every now and again the door would open too and I could see. And I saw, went out from Wells and stuff, and I saw Ryan when his little mother came.
Oh, yeah.
And this is,
tell this to her.
And she's come in, she's about that big. The weight of the world on her shoulders. Her son is all over the news, going to be hanged.
Yep.
He was in
I saw a picture of it. It's just a tiny little thing. Yeah.
She was. And look, the cell he was in was 24 hours observation. He had iron bars there.
That was a death cell, I suppose.
Yeah, it was. And they could see him had the light on 24 hours a day. They had 3 screws, 8 hours. They did shifts. Sat out on a chair outside, so he couldn't do anything. They couldn't see.
Yeah.
Now, no privacy, nothing. They sat her in a chair away from him. She couldn't hug him.
Yeah.
She couldn't hug him. Final goodbyes.
Yeah.
Anything like that.
His mother.
Yeah. And it was the saddest thing you ever seen.
And they wouldn't let her.
No.
Hold his hand. I mean, that's come on.
Well, not only that, he used to wear. And I've had him. You had a security belt around him like that, with handcuffs like that.
Yeah.
And they'd let him have 1 hour a day to go down and have a shower and exercise. And he'd go down for a screw. Now, one screw took him down, and the screw told me. He wasn't a bad screw. He finished up at Governor. His name was Tipping.
Right.
Now, Tipping wasn't too bad. Admittedly, he was working on Hace Fishing, but he was always all right to me.
Yeah.
And he complained to me. He said, John, I took Ryan down there. I gave him a banana. And he said another prison officer called Snooks was on the tower, gave me up. He said,
giving him a banana.
Yeah. Right. He got half shooted, reprimanded, and took half his pay for giving him a banana. So that's the sort of attitude they had.
A banana, he knows his fate. A banana.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's the attitude of those guys that worked there. He, at least that screw had the heart to try and give him something,
Yeah, well,
anyway, I think most of the screws, the guards down there, they had to believe that Ryan did it.
Yep.
Because if they believed that one of their own did it,
yep,
then there's one of the great injustices. So they couldn't go with that.
I think in a lot of things
they had to go the other way.
They needed to wrap this up as well.
That's
huge publicity, huge outcries, and things like that. I believe Ryan's father wasn't a nice bloke. I believe he was very abusive to him.
Well, listen, I think Ryan went through the
he went through
process.
The home system too, didn't he?
Just like Walker,
There's definitely, we're not saying that's right, but there's definitely, with lots of guests I have on the show, there's links there of the backgrounds.
Nettie Smith. Flannery. Just all
Graham Henry. Flogged,
that's right. Graham
so
Henry.
many.
There's no one. Look, you go right through it. There's just so.
But there seems to
Billy
be a
Monday.
certain pattern. Yeah.
Even Russell's come good, but he went through it all.
He went through hell. Yeah. There's definitely a pattern.
Ronnie Isherwood.
Yeah.
Went through hell.
Mate, it's fucking shocking. And I hope we've opened up a few things and given a few ideas out there today. Like I say, this has been going on for years. I agree with you. There should be some sort of inquiry. There's been inquiries for a lot less.
That's right. Well, I'm one of the last left. I was there.
You saw the man. You were in prison the day he was executed.
I felt the atmosphere. I was there. The way the media acted, I was there. The way you don't get crowds protesting the way they did if they thought he was. There
were several thousand outside the prison.
That they knew that this conviction should not have stood.
Yep.
They knew, and at least the worst they could have done was commute the sentence.
Yep.
To hang the guy when there's so much doubt, I say to Baldy, and I hope he's in hell. I really do.
Yeah.
What he put people through, he put the mother through, put the wife and kids through, that Ryan had.
Terrible.
Imagine going to school with that, being married to a guy like that.
Just the fact that the bastard was a politician to start with.
Yeah.
But, in my opinion.
But he, in my opinion, I think he had a touch of evil about him. That's my opinion. I say it now, and I think that this really needs this. We started this as a cold case, and I think we should conclude by saying this is a cold case. It's time they woke up that a man's been executed. And let's have a look into it.
Yeah.
What do you got to be afraid of? Spend a little bit of money and have a look in it, and get people with the proper knowledge to be able to, and the ability to go through all the evidence properly, not in a biased way, and come to a conclusion then. And if they do that, have an inquiry, and then make a recommendation to the government.
Yep.
And I think you'll find that they'll recommend the conviction be quashed.
Mate, it was abolished, the capital punishment, not long after all this, wasn't it?
That's got to tell you something.
Yeah.
Open up the jacket.
That's a shirt put up by Jarling is Failing, a great organisation, and they're fighting hard because they know that the Jarling is failing, that you only have to look. We've got thousands of extra people in our jails.
Yeah.
They're building private jails. They're focusing on work and just people getting out and turning crime. They're not being rehabilitated. There's no rehabs, not many rehabs. And young kids going into jail, they are not doing much for them. They're on the revolver. They step on, step off, step back on. And
it is. Once you're on
look, it's an industry. We're following America. We're following America. And you've only got to look, when they build a jail in America, what happens? It can be in the middle of the desert. They fill it up. Because the judges start, instead of giving bonds and this and that, they start putting kids in jail and doing this. Because there's a couple going to jail, a couple of judges going to jail. Because they were proven that they were getting paid to put kids in jail, to fill the jails up.
Massive amount
and
of states.
We always fill our jails up.
We
always manage to fill our jails up. They're overcrowded to hell. If your son went into jail now and he didn't take drugs, I'll guarantee you when he comes out he's taking drugs.
I've heard it's right.
But to get back on the subject, in those days there were no drugs around the system, maybe a bit of pot. And so all those people that saw it, they knew, the Crims knew that he was not guilty of killing us. And I say that, and I say it's a cold case. You say it's a cold case.
It's a cold case, mate, and it's Australian criminal history, and we've got so much of it.
I think we should run with that, and hopefully that be enough people see this to put a little bit of pressure on and maybe get that pressure mounting again. And if it doesn't, maybe down the track, we just might write a book about it. Another book, and go in heavy.
Definitely. Now, your book, John, before we go, your book's coming out, number 6.
Number 6, book. It's written by Ronald Isherwood. I've helped him put it together, but he wrote it, and it's called A Lie of Crime. And we're having a launch down in Melbourne at Pentridge on the 27th of August at 12, and we're having another launch in Ashfield and Sydney on the 30th of August at 6 o'clock at Ashfield RSL.
The Ashfield
Western West Club, And this is a great book. This is something different. Ronnie was a guy, a victim of circumstance. His father was a notorious criminal, encouraged him to be a criminal, and we're going back to the days of Jimmy Baisley and
hardcore.
Billy Jackson, Longley, all that. He knew all them. He knew them all, and he became a criminal.
6 books, mate. Noted author, John is.
So look, look out for that one.
Yeah.
And,
Definitely do yourselves a favour, swingers, and do that. We'll probably wrap this up now here, John.
Yeah.
From Concord, from where, like I said, we started from where it ended for these blokes. So we've got arrested just over here.
Yep.
In '66, and was the downfall. And we'll wrap it up today, John.
Yeah. Could I just say this?
Please, mate.
If you'd like to read more about Ryan, I've got a book out called Outlaw, and it was focused on those times when I was down in Pentridge and what happened. And you can get it from me by just going into my johnrkillick.com. Just go into the website and you'll be able to get it.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, you've just got number 6 coming out. And I think we've covered it, episode 27, pretty good today. We've had a man who was actually had known these people and was on there and was in prison at the same time of this horrible story. And it's not a nice story, it's a horrible story.
It's a horrible story, it's got to be told, and I think that it's got to be looked at again.
Yep.
It's been looked at, there's so many people know the story, and the lady that did that documentary last year, she won a prize for it. You know, won a prize for she's put you in the shoes of
done a hell of a lot of work.
Condemned man.
Yep.
And you feel it.
Yeah.
And you sort of feel it and realise, and you got to say to yourself, God, imagine if I was innocent and didn't do this.
Oh.
You know?
You know, it's just a fascinating bloody story, mate, and thank you very much for, going down this path today. It's been something going for years, and I think there definitely should be an inquiry or something into it. But anyway, swingers, we thank John for coming. We've been on location. We're sorry about all the bus noises and stuff like that. We're outside Concord Hospital. We'll have episode 28 coming up soon. We're slowly starting to climb up in the numbers, John. I think we're in the 40,000s now for views, and
strongly urge people, if they can, to give you a thumbs up.
Yeah, we'd appreciate any support
Subscribe.
we could get. Where we're funding ourselves. We still haven't made a Jats cracker. Like and subscribe.
Yep.
Marcus is reminding me. I always fucking forget that. I'm sorry. I always forget that. Thank you to like and subscribe. Storm Video Studios and Marcus's great work. The Bite Cafe, Monash Road, Gladesville, and Rutley Services, Sparkies and Cheddars, plumbers and electricians, excellent service located in Chatswood. So thanks very much for everyone today, and we'll wrap it up, and we'll see you all soon. He's a regular, he'll be back again.
Maybe another cold case.
Another cold case. This is the cold case today.
I've got one lined up.
Beautiful. We'll see you all soon, swingers. Take care, and bye.